Thank you, Chair Rivera and committee members, for allowing me to testify today. My name is Gonzalo Casals. I have worked in the New York City cultural and arts sector for over 20 years as a cultural producer, educator, advocate, and policymaker. Along with Mauricio Delfin, I co-direct the Cultural and Arts Policy Institute, which addresses critical systemic challenges in the sector. I'm not going to talk about budget cuts because everybody brilliantly spoke about the impact that they have. I want to only add that the funding cuts especially impact smaller community-focused organizations, which comprise over 65% of organizations applying for CDF and rely heavily and mostly exclusively on government funds for their operations and outreach. Across the board, percentages are not equity. They are positive equality. We need a framework for equitable distribution of resources, which the Institute is working on, but a quick approach to equity in the CDF program is a lower percentage of cuts to small organizations as, and I repeat, they only get funds from government. But I want to talk today about solutions, and I want to expand a little bit on data transparency, which my colleagues have been mentioning, but without saying that no one can solve the problems we're facing today alone. We all need to work together in this. A critical component of the IBO report is the inclusion of the data set detailing allocations for CDF grantees over 6 fiscal years, pre-pandemic, 19 and 20, pandemic, 21 and 22, and post-pandemic periods, including the implementation of CDF reforms in 23 and 24. The challenge with the data set is it incorporates aggregated not only the CDF awards, but New York City Council member items. The problem with that is that there's only so much we can do with that data. And I could go a little longer, or I can just use it on the report. The ongoing evaluation of these goals, which is the equitable distribution of funds, cannot be done. The data set also doesn't provide organizations' name and aggregated amount of CDF and council for each fiscal year. It does not include tax ID number. So without the tax identification number, we cannot cross-reference this data with an example, the Schedule C, which is a perfect example of open data transparency for government. From an open data perspective, the CLAs and presentation of CDF awards present significantly challenged for comprehensive analysis. Even though the agency's funding allocations can be found in the city's open data portal, their quality requires improvement to increase interpretation, and as you mentioned earlier, it needs to be released in timely fashion. And I finish with this. With the inability to dissect these allocations by organizational size, location, discipline, and the race and ethnicity of the organization's leadership and communities they serve, stakeholders are left with less nuanced understanding of the funding impacts. The limitation underscores a critical area of improvement in open data quality. It highlights the need of more robust reporting mechanisms to enable a deeper, more informed analysis of cultural and arts, local public funding, and distribution across the city's diverse cultural landscape. And I want to finish with an invitation to the City Council, to the Department of Cultural Affairs, to join the sector in working together to, first of all, in compliance with the New York City Open Data Law, to build a standard for data in which we can all access and we can all evaluate the impact that the data New York City public funding has in the sector. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very honored to have you here, of course. Oh, yes, please. Councilmember Brewer. Thank you.
Gonzalo, as you heard earlier, and you know, there has not been a real study on economics of this. Are you going to do one? Should the Port Authority do one? The controller? Would it help, et cetera? Because you obviously are thinking about it in your testimony.
We just launched the Institute, and we'll have our first event on Tuesday at BRIC. That is the Creation and Open Data Agenda for Arts and Culture in New York City. Everybody's invited. And we're like seeking funding to do these type of reports. But we don't only need the report, because the report can be done by any of us if the data is available, is explicit. You know, it can be used to provide interpretation. And we want to work with administration in order to do for everybody to access that data. And again, the Schedule C data that is available through the council's website is an example of the detailed amount of data that you need in order to do these kind of reports.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And excuse me, also, if we wanted to access some of this data, I try, and we can buy it in organizations like Candid for a minimum of $3,500, right? When we should be able to access these for free.
Well, you know who wrote the open data bill, right?
Yes?
Thank you.